Hi guys, Liberal Conservative here, back again with another video. So today I want to talk about something that's been sitting in the back of my mind for a while now. And the more I watch, the more I feel it. There's just something off about Valuetainment and the PBD Podcast. Now, before anyone jumps into the comments swinging, this is not a hit piece. I'm not saying Patrick Bet-David is stupid, evil, or irrelevant. Honestly, it's the opposite. He's smart, he's charismatic, he understands money, power, influence, and media really well. And that's exactly why this conversation matters. Because Valuetainment brands itself as this space for free thinking, entrepreneurship, and open dialogue. All ideas are welcome. Think for yourself. That's the whole vibe there, sort of thing. But if you really sit with the content, not just one clip, but over time, something starts to feel curated, not censored, curated. And that difference matters. One of the first things I noticed is who gets challenged and how. Some guests get intense pushback. Others, even when they are making questionable claims, gets treated more like allies. It's not that PBD never challenges people. It's when he does, and when he very noticeably does not. And when you are positioning yourself as a neutral platform, your framing becomes influence. The questions you ask, the jokes you laugh at, the interruptions you allow, the moments you choose to push or let slide. That is not accidental. Another thing that feels off is how entrepreneurship slowly turns into ideology. Business advice blends into political worldview. Capitalism becomes cultural war. Success starts to sound like moral authority. And again, none of this is random. There's this underlying message that creeps in sometimes. If you disagree with this worldview, you're not just wrong, you are weak, emotional, or unsuccessful. That's powerful rhetoric. And honestly, it's dangerous because it trains people to stop evaluating arguments and start judging people. Now, let's talk about PBD himself for a second. I will admit, he's got a compelling story. Immigrant background, military service, self-made success, so he claims. He founded the PHP agency, which is an MLM-style insurance company. And those of us who used to watch PBD back in the days know this. Some have even, couched him as a fraud. That's important context because MLMs are inherently controversial. Critics argue they rely more on recruitment than product value, and a lot of people who join don't make money. Patrick strongly disputes this, but the criticism exists, and it's part of his history, whether people like it or not. Then there's Valuetainment and the PBD podcast itself, which has grown into a massive media operation. And as that growth happened, the content also shifted. Less pure business, more politics, more culture war, more ideological alignment. Some people call that evolution. Others call it a grift. I'm not here to label it. I'm just saying the criticism didn't come out of nowhere. Now, the rest of the home team, that's what he calls his co-host, Adam Sosnick, is usually positioned as the finance guy. He talks money, investing, life settlement, but a lot of viewers, like me, feel his takes stay pretty surface level. He often plays this semi-contrarian role, sometimes presented as liberal. He wants to be represented as the liberal voice, but many people feel it's more of a performance than a genuine counterweight. Sometimes his takes are so off the radar that I listen and I'm wondering, why am I listening to this rubbish? Anyway, let's go to Tom Ellsworth, the biz doc. Tom is probably the least controversial of the group. He actually brings solid business breakdowns and experience. Most criticism around him isn't about wrongdoing, it's more about alignment and tone. He tends to fit comfortably within the show's broader worldview. And then there's Vincent Oshana. He's a comedian. That's his lane, so he says. I don't see him as funny, but well. He has no fraud history, no scandals that I've heard of or know of, or I haven't come across that in research. So the criticism he faces is mostly about style. Sometimes jokes undercut serious conversations. Sometimes his opinions come without much depth. But again, that's more about taste than anything else, I suppose. So when people talk about something being off, it's usually not about one host or one scandal. It's about the overall ecosystem of the PBD and Valuetainment brand, whatever you want to call it. Valuetainment attracts ambitious people, especially young men who want clarity in a really confusing world. And that's not a bad thing. But when clarity turns into certainty and certainty turns into loyalty, the platform stops being about ideas and starts being about identity. And once identity gets involved, criticism feels personal. That's when media stops informing and starts shaping. PBD often says he just wants people to think. And I actually believe he believes that. But real thinking requires discomfort. It means challenging your own audience sometimes, challenging your guests, not just the left, not just the mainstream, but your own side too. And that's where Valuetainment starts to feel selective, This doesn't mean everything on the PBD podcast is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean PBD is lying. And it doesn't mean you should stop watching. That's also not what I am saying. You have free will to do whatever you want to do. I watch the PBD podcast. I watch various conservative media and liberal media. I like to listen to both sides of the coin. Yeah. But what I'm saying is you should just watch the PBD podcast or Valuetainment with awareness, because the most influential voices aren't the loudest or the angriest. I've come to realize this. The most influential voices, they are the ones who make you feel like you came to the conclusion on your own. And that's why something feels off with the PBD podcast. Not because Valuetainment is obvious propaganda, but because it doesn't need to be. Now, if you made it this far, I genuinely love to hear your thoughts. Do you see Valuetainment on the PBD podcast as open dialogue or as a platform with a very specific worldview dressed up as free thinking? Let me know in the comments. Please be respectful. I want conversation, not chaos. And if you like this kind of content, thoughtful, critical, but fair commentary, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so more people can find this video. I'll see you in the next one.